some like rocket animation, like it goes off at the beginning.
Exactly. We need a countdown. Roger, copy.
Right.
Let's light this candle.
Hold on. I'll just create that real quick. And
I think we're good.
AI.
Awesome. All right. All right, we'll kick it off then. Great. So we've got Frank White with us today, and the team from the Human Space Program. And we've had the pleasure of knowing Frank for a bit, and I think that there's a ton of alignment between the work that he's been doing for way, way, way longer than Moondao has ever existed, and Moondao itself. And so we're honored to have Frank here with us today to tell us a little bit about what he's been working on, and how he got into all of this work. Just kind of, walk us through the journey of his life, I suppose. And some of the goals for this talk, I mean, beyond just getting to know the work of the Human Space Program, it's also to figure out how Moondao can support Frank and the work that he's doing. So yeah, I guess without further ado, Frank, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Hi, everybody. I see some avatars out there, people I think I know. I'll just say hello to everyone, and glad to see you, honored to be here. And Allison Matos is here with me. She's on stage, and Kevin Russell is on the phone. Kevin took one for the team, I believe, getting me on, and somehow it snarled up his ability to get on. So I think that's kind of how the Human Space Program works. We're a team. We work together to advance our cause. Go back in time. Go back in time. Ryan asked me to say a little bit about the overview effect, and I think most people have heard the origin story, but I will tell it anyway, just so if you haven't heard it, you'll know. And I think, I would like to tell you, people ask me, when did you get interested in space exploration? And there's an apocryphal story told by my first cousin, Ann Howard, who said that when we were growing up in Mississippi together, we were sitting in the car waiting for our mothers to come out of the grocery store. And I turned to her and I said, Ann, we're going to have to leave this planet someday. Planets don't last forever. Did you know that? And I supposedly was 5 years old at the time. And what's interesting is, I don't remember it, but if she says it happened, I believe her. And it's funny because at a much more advanced stage, I have the same message. I'm going to have to leave this planet someday. I think the day has come. So that's a context for what I'm doing today. I think ever since that time when I was 5, I've known that somehow space exploration was important for humanity, but I couldn't articulate it. And I do apologize, but Moondog, my canine companion, is guarding the house behind me, and there's nothing I can do about it. So please bear with me. This is my life as I live it. But anyway, fast forward to Gerard K. O'Neill, and I discovered the Space Studies Institute. And that was my home in the 70s and 80s. And I started pondering what Dr. O'Neill was talking about, which was really the idea of building freestanding space communities with asteroidal or lunar material and avoiding planetary surfaces. He didn't feel that was the way to go. So I thought about it, I pondered it, and I was flying cross country looking down at the Earth, wondering what it would be like to live in an O'Neill community. And it just hit me. I had an epiphany that would always have an overview of the Earth. It would always be in the sky. I would see it as a whole system without borders or boundaries. I would experience the overview effect. That's how the idea arose. It was not something I dreamed up in order to get tenure. as a professor. It was an experience. The overview effect is an experience, and validation of it is I've interviewed some 50 astronauts and asked them, does this make sense to you? And most of them said yes. The big difference was that I thought it would be an ordinary experience for space dwellers, but for astronauts, it was extraordinary. It was mind blowing. It was shocking. And so today, this insight, no borders, no boundaries, a whole system, we're all in this together. We have a movement to bring the overview effect down to Earth. Our goal is to create a shift in consciousness on planet Earth that will be a macrocosm of the microcosm that the astronauts experience. And that is really, I could say, that's step one. We want to have a shift in awareness here on Earth before we start to leave. A lot of people are worried about human space migration because they don't trust humans, to be quite honest. They fear that we will make a mess of it. And the Human Space Program and many other organizations who are working with this movement, our purpose is to avoid making the same mistakes. And I believe we can. Humans are a learning animal. We do learn, and we do improve, we do get better. So we'd like to really deal with issues of Earth through a transformed consciousness first. It's not linear. As we move off into the solar ecosystem, the mission of the Human Space Program is to support and ensure a sustainable, ethical, and inclusive evolution into the rest of the solar ecosystem. I want to pause and say it has nothing to do with abandoning the Earth. Everyone who departs will experience the overview effect, first of all. And secondly, and this is not original with me, it's original with Gerard K. O'Neill, and Jeff Bezos talks about it all the time. If we can move or expand our civilization to a larger ecosystem, it will benefit the planet. Planet Earth use a breathing space. You know, we're kind of like the kids living in the parents' basement. You know, the parents love us, they wish us well, but they really like for us to go out into the world and get a job. So that's our thing. That's what we need to do. That's what the Human Space Program is about. It grew directly out of the overview effect because when I finished the book in the first edition, as I was writing the final chapter, it struck me that what the astronauts were telling me was this exploration of the universe is way too big for NASA or Roscosmos. You need a human space program. It should be global. And so I had the idea of a 1,000-year project, and we call it a central project, which is the concept of a project that is physical, but it really triggers and brings out the best in a society spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Apollo was kind of a small version of that. Back in the Middle Ages, people built these beautiful Gothic cathedrals. It took years and years. A lot of them never saw the cathedral built, you know. So we take the long view, and we do want to see large numbers of people and animals and plants living off the earth, off world, as I say. And I have to do my mantra. I don't like to distinguish between space and earth. We are in space. We'll always be in space. We've always been in space. We are on a spaceship. We don't experience it. So this is the first space community. So we're talking about establishing new space communities. We're not abandoning Earth. Okay. So I wrote about this in the book, and then I waited for some other person to start the Human Space Program. I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I won't bore you with all the things that happened, but in the end, a classmate of mine from college said, I want to help you. He heard me talk about it at a reunion. And we started the Human Space Program in 2019 as a nonprofit. And we received our 501c3 in 2022. So we're now a real organization. Allison's here, Kevin is here. We have quite a few people working with us to achieve our goal. And just to be very clear about what we do, we have conceived of 3 components to our program interacting with one another. And one of them, which is really, I think we're going to use the technology of Moondao to make this work, is we've conceived of 16 task forces who will tackle the key issues as we leave the planet: environment, engineering, ethics, et cetera, et cetera. We imagine these task forces coming up with plans, ideas for how to handle each of those issues. And that would be integrated into what we call a blueprint or a plan for human evolution into the solar ecosystem. And it would have to be sustainable, ethical, and inclusive, et cetera. When I look at what Moondao is doing, I say, wow, that's the way to do the task forces. It can be done on a broader scale. I mean, honestly, in 2016, I imagined 10 content experts meeting in Paris in a hotel room and coming up with the answer. And I thought of Paris because it's my favorite city, next to Boston. But I think there's a better way to do it now. We really want it to be engaging for the whole planet to get involved in this idea. We want to create a repository of knowledge that would be open to everyone who's thinking about what they might do as we move off world, and the task forces would use it too. The third component, I think, is our secret sauce. That's our simulation model. And the idea there, initially, the idea there was that we would aggregate all of these task force reports into the blueprint, and then we would test the blueprint with the simulation model. So, for example, maybe the one of the task forces decides that the only way this is going to work is to terraform Mars. Well, we would use the model to see what would that cost, how hard would it be, does it fit with the rest of the blueprint, what if, and we would be looking at trade-offs. And so we're working on the model now, and we also see an open, I guess you'd call it open source, but we see a standalone way in which the model can be used. If you are familiar with the Club of Rome work in the 60s and 70s, the Club of Rome was worried about growth on a finite planet, and they commissioned a series of computer models to be built and run at MIT. And that came out as a book called Limits to Growth. And just about every scenario they ran led to civilization collapsing. And they left out one important variable, which was the ability of humanity to expand off the planet. So it is a finite planet. Humanity does not have to live on one planet. We all know that. We all, I think, are on board with being a multi-planet species or a spacefaring civilization. So we have been so lucky and we have been so blessed. One of the people who worked on Limits to Growth and helped build that model is now working with us. He's got all of that knowledge from 50 years ago of what went into that model And we're now building our own simulation model. One of the things that is really important about having the simulation capability is, instead of, let's say, president of the Sierra Club and Jeff Bezos arguing about what to do next. I don't know who the president is, so I'm just citing him or her, whoever. They could come together with us, and they could put their assumptions into the model, and we could see, what would happen. What would be the trade-offs? Because there are always trade-offs. I was once asked if I would appear on a podcast to talk about the overview effect and its environmental benefits. And I said, sure, the overview effect, seeing the Earth from outer space, tends to make people be environmentally aware. And the interviewer said to me, well, a friend of mine wanted me to ask you, that's great, but if in order to create these environmentalists, you have to burn up the atmosphere, is that a good trade-off? And I said, no, that's not a good trade-off, but that is something that the space industry does have to think about and deal with, So whatever we do, we're going to have trade-offs, and a good model can help you see what they are and then make policy and choose the optimal path. So that is, those are the three components. Where are we today? So we have some demonstrable relationships built into the model. David Peterson, our modeler, is working on it. We would like to get to a minimum viable product. What would that be? That would be where, today I might be here with the model and you would throw questions at me and I could put it into the model. We could see what would happen. We're not quite there yet. We have a budget of about $1 million to get to where we want to go. So obviously, shameless plug, we're looking for support, but that's not the point of the talk. However, I just wanted to let you know that we do have very clear goals, very clear objectives, and this will be the big picture. I mean, this will be, one of our team members talks about it as a technological version of the overview effect. The model will allow you to see the whole picture of human space migration off-world. So that's where we are. And as I said, it's a 1,000-year project. I had it start in 2000. So, and we like to talk about orbits instead of years. So we're 25 orbits old. So we've got quite a few to go. But we'd love to have anybody who's listening, and I know it's going beyond this space here, help us out in any way that you wish. We're definitely going to need data for the model, and that's an area where a lot of different people can help us. So that's about 20 minutes, and I think that's enough of me. I'd like to ask Allison and Kevin to just add a little bit, and then we really want to hear your questions. So Allison, you want to comment on what did I leave out? I'm sure something.
Sure, no problem. Hi there. It's wonderful to be here today, and thank you, Frank. Thank you for that great introduction to the Human Space Program. I'm Allison Matos here, and I am supporting the Human Space Program in the area of partnerships, strategic partnerships, and corporate development. And as Frank said, a real pillar to the Human Space Program is our computer simulation model, which we've been working on, simulating potential impacts of large-scale space migration on Earth, and also looking in to see how this large scale space migration can help ameliorate some of the challenges that we're currently facing here on our planet. So it's a very exciting project, and we're entering into the stages of uh, going out there and finding strategic partnerships to help us support this project, in addition to a few other projects that we have. And I won't go into detail on all those projects, but a lot of exciting things are evolving in the pipeline with a variety of different types of projects. One includes VR, an educational program working with a partner, the Kristen McAuliffe Center. The VR experience is for disadvantaged uh, youth, in which we bring them together in a VR environment that is in space, and these young students will be able to experience the overview effect in VR as we talk about compelling topics in space exploration and discovery, and really focus on systems thinking. And beyond that project, we have a few other things, again, evolving in the pipeline, including on a research project related to asteroid mining. And of course, Frank already mentioned the task forces. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening right now at the Human Space Program. And we're really looking forward to developing a collaboration with Moondow, and we're so delighted to be here today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Moondow. We love what Moondow is doing, and we had a meeting last night where we just felt like little kids sitting at the seat of the masters, teaching us about blockchain and Bitcoin and all the things that we really need to learn about. And so I'm just going to give a few minutes to Kevin Russell. Kevin is our technical guy, and he's ironically on the phone, which I'm holding here. But that is really, as I said, because he put all his energy into getting me on. So he is confined to the phone. But Kevin, do you want to say a few words about the Human Space Program, and then we'll turn it over to the audience?
Sure. Thank you, Frank. Well, thank you, Moondow, for having us and speaking to your our guest community about the possibility of us working to extend Moondow's vision and HSP's vision. And just to go quickly, we have been looking at Web3 and how we would incorporate a governance model across the millions of subject matter experts that would help us with the 16 task forces that would help create the hypotheses that the simulation model then tests. And we're very big fans of the network state document and holacracies in general, and how we might organize ourselves as a species in more of a progressive human organizational fashion versus a winner-take-all mechanism. So we do have, as Allison mentioned, a number of projects, the Education for VR, and then to help kids connect with what systems dynamics, which Frank alluded to, which really came out of MIT, and the limits to growth model. So system dynamics was created by the group that we have the main persons working with us, which really helps people understand inputs, outputs, flows, and stocks, feedback loops. And so if you're all interested in that, please dive into all the beautiful stuff on Donella Meadows and her husband, and then all the books that have been written over 50 years and that have been fed into sustainability on this planet, the Sustainability Institute, etc. And the project that's very exciting that mirrors the VR one is the secure handling of Earth-type planetesimals, which Allison mentioned, and you all may be familiar with. There for a number of years have been a number of asteroid mining proposals, and certainly in the space community for 20 years there's been various papers. and many of them are approach it in a very particular way. And our partner, who has brought this to us, who also worked for NASA, has a very innovative approach. It's all big TED Talks. It's all open source, by the way. His name is Dr. Bruce Damer, D-A-M-E-R. There's a great TEDx. There's a bunch of information out there about the architecture, and the architecture would really allow us as a species to build those first stepping stones, which is water, minerals or mineral resources, and biologics. Because with those three things, we can build an entire infrastructure between here, the moon, the inner solar system, and Mars. And something that Frank mentioned, or wasn't explicit about, that I'll mention, is our vision is from the sun to out to the Oort cloud. So I'll leave that to you to look at what we're talking about in terms of building out a capability for our species. So our sim model, as Frank mentioned, is kind of the engine and the blueprints that the 16 task forces help create are citizen authored. And the mechanism that would help bring millions or thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of experts together would be a large mechanism. And one of the things we've talked about in the Web3 initial conversations was we want a community who believes in the vision that a citizen authored blueprint of how our species migrates would be possible, but that their effort is in some way remunerated back through some unit value. So we've always thought it's hard to get people to show up if they're not creating value around things they care about. And so, as I've always said to people I've met, Moondao has the best governance, document transparency stuff I've ever seen. So I love it in that regard. And so creating some unit of value that people and projects that people can get behind is something we want to do. And so it'd be wonderful to work with the community to extend both visions in that effort. And I guess I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So I think we've had our say, and I think now's the time, Pablo, to turn it over to you and to the audience and see if there's some questions we can answer.
Well, yeah, thank you all. So I'm gonna do my best to, I guess, channel some of the questions that are coming in from the community. So Phil is asking, are you working on any publications? Phil is wondering if you have any plans or opinions on the decentralized science movement. So this is open sourcing science, having all the data out there publicly, the code, anyone can run it, replicate the study, and then just trying to figure out how to make science a little bit more open and composable for everyday citizens to get involved. It sounds like that would resonate a lot with what you all are working on, but yeah, I wonder if you guys have given that any thought.
Well, I don't think we've given it a lot of thought as an organization. I mean, as far as publications, I would say that we could start with the books that I've written. I think that's kind of the source of what we're working on. The Overview Effect, Space Exploration and Human Evolution is the first one, and that's got most of the interviews of the astronauts, which is really, in my opinion, the most important part of the book. But there is also another book in the trilogy called The New Camelot, and that's a radical reinterpretation of Apollo and John F. Kennedy. Then finally, The Cosmo Hypothesis, which asks the question, why has evolution brought humanity to the point of being a spacefaring species? What can we offer to the universe rather than what can we take from the universe? And so, we do have those 3 books, and the third one actually has most of the human space program described within it. Uh, I can only say, and I would ask Allison and Kevin if you have any points here, we don't have any official opinion or statement of the human space program on the topic that was just asked. Although, as you said, Pablo, you know, I think we resonate with that idea just as we resonate with what you're doing. So, Allison or Kevin, do you want to comment further?
Sure. I love what decentralized science is about. We don't have any publishing plans in on the schedule currently, but the fact that it leverages blockchain and aims to support a more open, incentivized, community-driven set of scientific research is wonderful, because I'm sure many in the community are familiar with the backstory in Massachusetts regarding the founder of Reddit and the publishing academic issues that have come to the fore. So making a more democratic science environment is something that makes a lot of sense, because gatekeepers and obstacles is something we would want for our species to not be as constrictive to those who are the gatekeepers and the power brokers of that. So the fact that decentralized science addresses challenges of traditional science, the lack of funding, data sharing, publishing, collaboration, we are all for helping that go forward. And of course, we have looked at how blockchain could be used to help the kinds of services that, say, our users in 400 or 500 years on the moon or Mars are in a free space environment would be using to, say, transmit quantum data over links. Anyway, I'll stop there. But yes, we're in support of the idea, but we don't have any publishing currently.
And the repository of knowledge that we're creating, I think will fit into what the questioner is asking about.
Awesome.
More questions.
Mikhail asks, what will the final product of the simulation project be? He asks whether it'll be more like a recommendation for the best way forward, or more just a tool to analyze and compare future scenarios.
Yeah, I think it'll be both in a way, in the sense that the first step will be to create the blueprint, which would be a recommended way forward based on all of the information coming from the task forces. And then, as I said, we'll test it with the model. We'll see if the blueprint holds up. And at that point, we'll go into an iterative process of running more and more scenarios, and to see what really will hold up and what's the optimal way forward. Because as I said, there's no perfect way. We have a friend, Daniel Fox, who is very involved in the future of space, and he says nature is messy, and it's not going to be perfect. Yeah, it's really going to be both, and we'll reach plateaus of recommendations, and then we'll reiterate. We'll do more with it. And one thing I do want to say, I do not want to forget this. I believe one of the most important aspects we're going to include is the impact of artificial intelligence and robotics, because this is my humble opinion, but I think it's shared by our team. Well, I'm actually going to tell the story, Pablo, if you don't mind.
Please.
Rick Tomlinson and I were invited to an AI conference in Washington, D.C., and most of you know Rick. And if you don't, you ought to Google him and know who he is. But we've been working on this for 40 years, telling people we need to leave the planet, we need to move into a larger ecosystem. So we were invited, we were the only space people at this conference. on artificial intelligence, and we were asked to do a fireside chat on the overview effect, space, and AI. The night before, we were having dinner, and it just hit me. Anybody who knows me is my life is one of epiphanies, and there are these long periods when I don't know what I'm saying or doing, and then I know. And it hit me, and I said, Rick, for 40 years we've been promoting something that probably can't be done without AI and robots, in the sense that we need to simulate what it would be like for robots embedded with AI to go out ahead of the humans and lay the foundation for us. And Rick, when we were talking about this even 10 years ago, it couldn't be done. But now, at this moment, we do have the technology to do both. And that's a very important thing. So I think that's going to be always in our consciousness and part of the simulation.
And
Yeah,
I'll add one more piece to the answer for the question, as I believe it. As Frank said, it will be both. It'll be both a product and a service and part of what we would call citizen science. And like AlphaGo, where and the other, I forget the neuroscience project out of MIT, where I was folding brain cells. It will build the model, the World Trade model that was created in '72 and then updated multiple times, had 5 main systems: the population system, food system, renewable resource system, pollution system, and industrial systems. The HSP simulation model, it includes variations of the original 5 systems and augments them, as the original model did not take into effect space. And one of the things we also do with one of our partners is the United Nations has the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and we, working with our partner, are advocating that they start to understand how space augments all the other 17, the first one being poverty and the second one being zero hunger. And then, anyway, I'll leave it to you all to look up the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, because our simulation model augments the basic 5 areas and expands that so that the computation of the various options that our species could choose take into effect this massive opportunity that was never part of the original modeling. And as our main modeler, David Peterson, says, the basics of the way the model works and system dynamics works in general is you feed it rational assumptions and it makes contingent predictions. So, as Frank said, it's not going to give you the answer. And as we say in simulation, the simulation is a conceit. It's never the answer, but at least it allows you to look at multivariate, very, very complex, billions, possibly trillions of data points, and choose some likelihood, the option you would want to come near to. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
So I-24 Titan, Andrew asks, do you believe that there is a difference in quality of the overview effect between orbital spaceflight, suborbital, stratospheric, or VR? And is it more of a factor of time or exposure? Yeah, I'm smiling at, I think, because yeah, there's something that Frank's been tinkering with here. So
yeah, it's of course another story. I have to tell all of you, it is important that I'm from Mississippi. I recently talked to a former governor of Mississippi, and we had a great chat about what we were doing with the human space program. And I said to him, no, you're a great storyteller, because that's how he was responding to me. And he said, I'm a former politician from Mississippi, and that's what we do. We tell stories. That's how we communicate. So even though I've lived in the North most of my life, a lot of my communication is stories. So here comes another one. Um, I was convinced I had had an epiphany that was Einsteinian in nature. And that was that the overview effect could be put into a formula. And the formula was I equals D times T plus O. And that meant impact of the overview effect was equal to distance from the Earth, the time and space, plus openness to the experience. I thought this was pretty cool. And the reason I put openness in there was that Edgar Mitchell told me, in his opinion, that was the key to what impact the spaceflight experience had on his colleagues and him. And he had a huge experience where he became one with the universe. That was so profound, I called it the universal insight. It's kind of like the overview effect on steroids. Well, I thought my formula was great until I saw William Shatner come out of the Blue Origin module, and he had only had an 11-minute flight, but his experience was really close Mitchell's in the profound nature of it. So I still have the formula, but it's I equal D times T times O. It should probably be O squared. Because my answer really is yes, there is a difference. I mean, when you're in orbit, the Earth fills your view. You can see the universe behind you. When you're on the moon, the Earth is much smaller. It's mostly the universe you see. There is clearly a difference. Suborbital flight, one other story, people told me, you're not going to experience the overview effect on a suborbital flight. And I said, let's see. Let's find out. I've interviewed quite a few suborbital astronauts. At least one of them is here. And suborbital flight can be quite profound as far as the overview effect goes. So I really do believe there's a difference, and it's not appropriate to just ignore the distance and the time and all of that. But I do think as we go forward, astronaut training, which I'm very interested in, is going to focus on how do people prepare themselves for this experience that they're going to have.
I've got a question myself. So I like that you bring up the idea of cathedrals and how, you used to have these multi-century projects, um, and that space migration will require that type of thinking or that type of shift in consciousness. Um, and I guess the question that I want to pose to you is why did we stop building cathedrals, or why does it feel like we've stopped building cathedrals, and what do we need to reignite that? Like, what is the formula that gets people to want to build things that they won't live in, they won't see?
Well, I do want Allison and Kevin to help me out here. I think the building of the cathedrals happened because there was a fairly dominant worldview at the time, which was Christianity. And so I think that unified people around this idea. And I think over time, we've become much more, we've become more multicultural, which is a good thing. But in addition, we do have to say that in other cultures, there were multi-year projects like that. Um, and, the pyramids are often cited, but we don't really know as much about the building of the pyramids and how it was done. And I'm not sure that's a good example because it may have been done with slave labor. But the cathedrals were more done by citizens who came together. And again, it had a transformational effect just to build them. There's a guy named Luke Jerram who actually does a Gaia presentation. It's a huge Earth globe, very good representation of the overview effect. And most of the time, the space in which he puts it is cathedrals, which is terrific. And I saw a video of people coming out of having seen that. They were deeply, deeply moved. But to go back to your broader question, I believe that the breakup of a common vision is the key to why we don't do that. And I think we know that there are people who are talking about long-term thinking and looking at what we're doing today in terms of the future. And certainly indigenous people talked about that a lot, to think about what are you doing today for your descendants? What effect is it going to have on your descendants? So it's there. My deepest hope, or my strongest hope, is that the overview effect can become a rallying icon for the whole world. It doesn't belong to any political party. It doesn't belong to any faith. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's us. And when you look at Earthrise, which is perhaps the most famous one, it's an amazing selfie. We're all in it. Well, actually, most of you aren't. I was in it because it was taken in 1968. But when we go to the moon or Mars or wherever, and we do that again, we'll all be in that selfie. I just noticed somebody say they were in it. That's really cool. But a friend of mine once said, I think the overview effect is a boundary object. I said, well, no, it's about no borders, no boundaries. How can it be a boundary object? And he said, well, back in the 80s, there was a sociologist who did a study of workplace cooperation. And she found there had to be a boundary object so that people could work together without having total consensus. And a boundary object is very plastic at the periphery, but very coherent at the core. And I believe the overview effect can be that. And that's why I think the human space program can be like the cathedral building. We don't have to have total agreement on everything in order to work on what the overview effect tells us we can do and should do. I just want to throw it to Allison, who's been quite quiet. Allison?
Sure. Thank you. Yep, sure. Thank you, Frank. So that was a really good question. And, I think the shift has occurred due to several different, I guess, all interconnected factors as to why cathedrals are no longer being built like they were many years ago. And I think that dips into religious, demographics, and the changes that have occurred. Also economic factors, the costs related to traditional construction, cathedral construction, which ties in directly to, the Industrial Revolution and being able to manufacture things on a high volume basis. And now we're just building. I think also architectural and, construction, changes in those areas have changed. And I think that also ties into lost traditions in craftsmanship. I mean, I find that myself on a daily basis, just in getting things constructed in my own personal home. It seems to be a lost art, finding true craftsmen. Additionally, I think tying into what Frank was saying, it's also the result of cultural shifts and maybe different expressions of cultural identities and how these have shift, and then also, modern societies finding new ways of building as a result of our manufacturing processes and the changes that have occurred over the last 200 years. So in a nutshell, those are my views. That was a really good question. So thank you for that question today.
Some people look at the spacecraft we're building as a modern cathedral. And I know many people who've been to a launch, including myself, feel like it's a spiritual experience. Many people cry when they go to a launch, and we don't know why. It's just like so overwhelming to see what humans can do when we're not fighting with each other and may I say, when we're in Discord. More questions?
Well, I will mention one thing, Frank. When the humans created the organs in Western Europe in the 1500s, 1600s, they were the loudest thing at the time. And sort of following on there, of the 16 task forces, one of them, besides ethics, is religion and sociology. And we largely gathered as a species around that spiritual as well as social focus, because everyone was remote, and except for letters, that's the way we got together. And many, many years ago, I used to think about how fire that we all would sit around once we created fire to tell the stories, to pass on the knowledge of an oral tradition, and then we started to write it down and transmit it, has been vastly changed by the fact that we go to a cathedral pretty much every moment when we find our community through now our devices. So our cathedrals, which Mundao is a part of creating, the internet for the space program, right? Mm-hmm. The space program for the internet. So our cathedrals, our community, we find them instantaneously, and we connect with them instantaneously, which I think is a reason why we've all been aghast at the dumpster fire that social networks have become, because it's become largely run by the monetization ethos, and that hasn't created great social, spiritual outcomes. And so, as Tristan Harris likes to say, our first encounter with AI has been abysmal, because look what it's done. But it was told to do that, to quote a 2010 Space Odyssey scientist who said Hal was told to lie. And so we'll create different cathedrals now, and I think I certainly have heard that recently, the backlash that is mounting here because of what we're all seeing happen is going to be immense. The protocols, the different ways of being and doing changes afoot, but we will create new kinds of digital cathedrals. It won't overcome the beauty of the stained glass windows that communicated, and the music and the social part. And I think that's why we still realize as humans we love to get together. And there's some great science about why when we all go to see a movie together and the neuroscience of it, our brains synchronize, that we'll never replace that. And similarly, when we worship and talk about ideas and sing together, and those social experiences, though certainly COVID offered us some incredible musical social experiences distributed over the global internet. It's, as you all know, it's different when you're in a big group of people you're dancing with, you're celebrating with, you're raving with, you're singing with, what have you. So we'll create new kinds of cathedrals.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. We're coming to the end of our time here, but it's going to be fascinating to see how religion, culture, the softer aspects of human life evolve as we leave the planet. Notice I didn't say as we go into space because of the mantra I repeated earlier. But as we create new space communities, inevitably we'll create new cathedrals of the mind and the heart and of the spirit, obviously, because that's what humans do. Maybe our robots will be worshiping with us, however we do it. I think actually, I think there was actually a film recently in which the robots were extremely religious. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but what if the robots turn into very religious intelligences? We don't know. We'll see. Any more questions? We love the questions. Any more?
Let's see. I might have missed one from someone here. The chat is very active, though. There's a lot of great responses. Yeah, I love the idea of what does a robot religion look like? What does it even mean for a robot to have a
Yeah.
religion? Yeah.
Yeah. Could I just I don't know if he wants me to do this, but Iman, you're here, you've experienced the overview effect. Everything I know about it, I know from talking to people like you. Could you just say a few words to close out for us?
Hello, how's everyone doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good to see you as always, Frank. Hope you're doing
Yeah,
well.
you too.
I mean, yeah, I think this group has heard me talk about it before, but it is awe-inspiring, as some people put it, to be up there and to see not only the like colors of the earth, but the vast darkness that is space, and to know that that is nearly infinite, you know, in our ability to comprehend how deep that goes, and how minuscule and small we are relative to all that, and how fortunate we are to actually exist on this planet, because we have yet to find a planet that is equivalent to this one out there. So I think it's pretty amazing. Today, Emily Calandrelli put out on YouTube of her flight, which I think was S-28. And watching that and watching her reaction and just kind of seeing her experience, you know, through her own eyes was awesome and brought goosebumps, because it reminded me of what I had seen when I went up, which was pretty cool. So yeah, it's a real thing. I think you can experience it to some extent on Earth, and I suspect that this is why we have religion, because we look up to the stars when we weren't polluted with all this light, and imagine what else is out there, and feel quite small. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think we should all go.
Yeah, Human Space Program says yes, we agree with you. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for. I always say, you know, the heroes of the story I'm telling is not me, but the astronauts, because it's still pretty brave to sit on top of a rocket, which is going to explode with tons of TNT and project you upward. And so thank you for doing it, Iman, and bringing back that what I call sacred knowledge. And I guess we're at the end.
And thank you to
Go ahead.
Moondow for thank you for Moondow and the community for supporting
Yeah.
it, because I don't think I could afford it myself.
Yeah, time to thank Moondow for making it possible. I have to just go off camera for a minute. I'm getting a call. Hang on. I think we're close to the end, Pablo.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're almost here at the hour. But yeah, I mean, what a special town hall this has been. Thanks, Iman, for joining. I love these moments where we can get everyone together and yeah, just share a little bit about what each of us are working on. I mean, I think what resonates with me the most with the human space program is the idea of that it's citizen authored, or that there's a place in there for everyone. Everyone brings something different to the table, and I think what Moondao can support in is that we're building tools for collaboration. So we're trying to make it easier for people to work with one another on the internet and to transmit value to one another in a direct and straightforward manner that doesn't get in the way, that is accessible to anyone with an internet connection. Yeah, I think that these tools are really powerful to help us coordinate with one another and build these new cathedrals via the internet and have it manifest into this 1,000-year long project that enables humans to migrate into the stars. I think that's one of the most inspiring and just amazing adventures that humans can participate in. So yeah, I want to thank you, Frank, for joining, and Allison and Kevin, both of you too. Thank you all for being here with us, and Iman as well. So I guess I'll let you say some closing words, but also we'll be doing a regular governance proposal pitches after this. So stay put. We're not ending the town hall here, but yeah, Frank, I guess any closing thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'd love to stay. I have to jump to another meeting. That's what the phone call was. But I do want to thank Moondao for being Moondao. I mean, what a creative idea. And, thank you for sending people into orbit or almost into orbit where they can experience the overview effect. And thanks to everyone who's here. I know every one of you are committed to this vision, or you wouldn't be here. And it's really not about any one of us as an individual. It's about the future of humanity, and it's about the future of um, it's about the future of the universe and our relationship to it. So it's a big project. We hope you'll join our little part of it. And thank you so much for having us here today. And I hate to leave, but I'm just going to have to jump. So thanks again, Pablo and Ryan, and everybody who's been here. Iman, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Thanks,
Thank you,
Allison.
Pablo. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Dr. Iman. So privileged to be here today. And hopefully in the future, I'll be able to share my overview effect experience. While the overview effect is something that is experienced and documented in space, I believe that the overview effect is also possible here on Earth. And I had the incredible experience to have that. And it was so terribly powerful and beautiful. And I've never felt so whole before. And it all related to being connected to our fellow humans through loss and losing a loved one. And from that incredible loss, something beautiful was born from that, which resulted in an opportunity for me to work with the owner of Vans Shoes to create overview effect inspired Vans for young students at a local school here where I live, and designing these shoes with Steve Van Dorn, and being able to inspire young children in space exploration and discovery, and also teach them about the overview effect for their STEM night fair evening. So it was truly beautiful how that story came together. Not enough time to share it right now, maybe in the future. But again, I'm just so delighted to be here today, and we're really, really looking forward to exploring how we can work with MoonDAO to support one another in the human space program. And thank you again for giving us this opportunity to be on the platform and speak with your community, and just really grateful. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for being here with us, and thanks for sharing that. That's super interesting. But yeah, yeah, thank you all for joining us. And yeah, I guess now we'll move into the governance stuff. Less interesting than having Frank and you all here. But I think it's, well, we've got some really great proposals, and I think there's some stuff in here that people have been tinkering on for a while. So I'm excited to hear some of these proposals from the community. I'll hand it over to Ryan, and he'll help guide us through it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Allison. Thanks to everyone at HSP. Great to have you guys here. And yeah, thanks, Pablo, for hosting that awesome conversation. We got 2 proposals that we're going to be presenting and under consideration today. First one is the Sea and Space program in London, or the gala event that's going to be in London this April. We put together a proposal to sponsor the event help sponsor the event for $10,000, and the proposal also includes about $3,000 or up to $3,000 to support travel expenses to bring some of the MoonDAO crew out there, hopefully, to attend the event. But yeah, Christina's been a huge friend to the MoonDAO community. We worked with her on the zero gravity flight, obviously. Does amazing work with these in-person events. The zero gravity flight obviously would not have happened without Christina, and just being able to experience all that with the astronauts, with Charlie Duke, with Nicole Stott, with Doug Hurley was incredible. But yeah, Christina, could you tell us a little bit more about what you've got planned in April in person there?
Yep. Hi, everybody. So those of you who know me, I produce events all over the world. I do outreach with astronauts all over the world and experiences like zero gravity flights. In this instance, for Earth Day, we are planning, which a little bit has changed, guys, since I talked to you. And so we were going to have to do like a 5-day event. And that was partially because the venue was requiring us to take a whole week, which was a pretty heavy lift. And then the last couple days, I had a conversation with them. Now they're allowing me to only have to pay for 2 days and potentially have the venue up for up to 3 days. But the idea is to do a summit, a space summit, some VIP receptions, very high-level awards ceremony. That's one of the things that I'm known for, is doing awards at different galas that I've done at Kennedy Space Center for Apollo 11, as well as in London and in Romania. So I'm coming back to London, and we have 6 astronauts on board. We've got Tim Peake, UK astronaut Tim Peake, UK reserve astronaut Megan Christian, Charlie Duke, Nicole Stott, Doug Hurley, and Kathy Sullivan, who was the first American woman to do a spacewalk and was the head of NOAA. And so the idea behind the event is we're also working together with ocean advocates and different ocean conservationists to talk about the ways that our climate and environment and the ocean are really interconnected with the moon, kind of shift people's thinking about how we all live in space, as Frank had said, and the way the moon affects the tides, the way that all coral all over the world spawns because of the second day of a full moon. So we're really just trying to get people to shift their thinking about space technology as a way to help with environmental issues for those who think about space as something that doesn't have anything to do with them. And so some of the new developments, or at least some of the things that have happened in the last couple of days, which I haven't filled you guys in on, is that, or maybe I did last week, I can't remember, but we are in discussions with partnering with Earthshot Prize. Earthshot Prize is Prince William's nonprofit endeavor, which is actually based on the moonshot. The idea of the same way that we reached the moon in a short period of time and solved all the issues of how do we get humans to the moon. the Earth shot of trying to solve problems on Earth. And so we're in discussions with them about partnering with us. And I actually asked them to see if Prince William would just record a video for the event. And they actually said to me, this might be something he'll actually attend in person. So they encouraged me to write a formal letter, and actually were serious enough about it that they kept bugging me about it until we actually got the letter done, with me and my partner signing it. So we've sent off a formal request for Prince William to participate. I don't know if he will, but we have a pretty good chance because we're talking to the right people. And the other piece that's kind of more relevant to Moondao, and this happened yesterday, was that we had a discussion with Blue Origin about sponsoring. So they're probably going to come on as a sponsor as well. And as a matter of fact, they're looking, and I hope to have an answer tomorrow, about bringing the capsule to be in Piccadilly Circus. So this venue is a new venue that's under the Piccadilly screen. For those of you who follow me, the Piccadilly Lights people donate the screen to me when I do big space art projects with Nicole Stott. And we showcase usually kids' space art that forms into a mosaic. So they're going to give me the screen during Earth Week. And I wanted Earth Day, but then that's how I found out about Earthshot Prize. They get it on Earth Day. So we will take over the screen on one of the days. And then the idea is on the street level is an open public activation for people to come in, see content on this giant 40-foot LED wall, be able to do meet and greets with the astronauts. We'll have an exhibit of space art. We'll have Nicole's space art suits. We might have some other artifacts, and we'll have an art display. And then hopefully we'll have the Blue Origin capsule there. And then on the lower level, we'll have like these B2B events, which includes the astronauts and the other speakers for B2B. And those are invitation only or only for sponsors. And that's where we'll have my network of high net worth individuals, venture capital funds, investors, entrepreneurs from my London and European network. And so that's what part of what Moondao would get out of this sponsorship is access to the private events that only the top sponsors and the major partners get access to. And that includes like the award ceremony in the evening. So this is where the B2B side of it that really is, you know, the exclusive type of access, and the interaction also with the astronauts in a way that's different than the public activations. So hopefully that, and this is we're talking about April 21st and 22nd. If Prince William comes, they told me they'll give me a third day for free. So we shall see what happens with that. But that's the basics. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, feel free to hop up or type in the chat. But that sounds, I mean, it's going to be a really, really awesome event. We added some OKRs to just around growing the network, trying to bring a few more people in, as well as potential partnerships or business opportunities, folks that we can bring into the network as teams, measurables around that. But yeah, Phil, do you have a question?
Yeah. You mentioned that there's some travel for Moondao folks. Have you selected who would represent the DAO at the event?
We haven't discussed that specifically, but like if it's a speaking opportunity, someone from leadership, and I don't know what else that might look like. It's just kind of to cover those expenses, perhaps for Pablo to be at the event, and then we'll see. It's an up to 3,000 travel expense, I guess. If not,
I was
it'll
more
obviously be
asking about
returned.
the capacity that Moondao would participate and stuff more than the budget request. Just out of curiosity to see how much was planned so far. Yeah, like
in terms of
as a
general
sponsor, do
community
we get a
attendance.
speaking slot? Well, do we get a speaking slot? And have you decided who would go to the VIP?
We have 2 tickets basically
Mhm.
within the sponsorship for those events. So
And to
it hasn't
add
been
to that, but part of the sponsorship isn't just to go. So Moondao will have be placed within the sponsors on the website throughout all the content that's shown on the screen. As a matter of fact, I probably could have like a short speaking slot for Pablo within the summit. It'll probably be pretty short because usually the big sponsors that are at the $75,000 and $50,000 level are the ones who end up sponsoring the panels, and they get the most coveted speaking slots. But obviously, I have a good relationship, and I'm also in charge of this and the run of show. So I have to be careful, with the people who give us a lot
Spend
more
your
money at the
street
higher
cred
level.
wisely, Christina.
Ye-
Spend it wisely. But yeah, thank
Ye-
you. That answers my
Yeah,
question.
just so you know. But I mean, the interesting thing, and just for you guys to know, like I mentioned Moondao to some of the people, and they're like, "What the heck is that?" And so, just I think for the sake of awareness in a community of all these guys that I know manage money, I think it's an interesting opportunity for you guys to educate this network of, guys who have venture capital funds and who, like a couple of my buddies who will be there, own banks. So, this is like an opportunity to kind of interact with people who what you guys do is so foreign, or they really just don't know anything about it. So that's the other kind of part of it. I think that could be really interesting for you guys.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Cool. If there's no more questions, we do have the temperature check proposal linked here in the ground control chat. So if the senators can place their votes here within the next couple hours, that would be great.
We've got one just small logistical question. I think this might have just rendered incorrectly here, the Discord username. The lead is Christina, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if Christina's able to attend the town halls and provide event updates, obviously she's more than welcome to serve as a Rocketeer in the Senate. But I know she has some other kind of conflicts with her schedule when our normal.
Sorry,
town hall
guys,
time
I'm
is, but-
driving. I'm literally in school line ups with my kids, so I'm trying to
Great.
multitask here. And that's one of my bigger, like when I'm home, conflicts is like picking up my kids from school when I have my kids. But yeah, no, as much as I can participate, and I'm happy to give updates because things will get closer, of course, depending upon other people. Like I'm really trying hard to get Vast as a sponsor as well, and I've been talking closely with those guys. So there's lots of interesting developments, and I think that's probably going to be of interest to the community as things go further. But yeah, as much as I can, and as those who know me well, though, I often am traveling too for lots of different things. So I will try my hardest to be there as much as I can each week to give an update.
Okay. Well, I guess Ryan, well, I don't know. It might be good to just throw in that edit before we can vote on it now, but just so it's clear in there in the proposal. But yeah, cool.
Sure thing. I'll check it out. Cool. Anything else, Pablo?
Nope, that's it for me.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Thank you,
Actually, the last
Christina.
thing to add too, I will tell you, is I'm looking at my calendar, and since it's Thursdays usually, right? So it'll just be, it looks pretty good. Thursdays look pretty good right now leading up to this event. So there's only a couple instances that it looks like I might not be able to, but I can let you guys know ahead of time.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. All right. Thank you, Christina. We will move on to the next proposal with Ninja Bob and the world's biggest analog. Hey, Bob.
Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yep. Take it away.
Pablo, did you want to share, or I?
I can share. I'm just looking for the proposal. Sorry. Here it is.
165.
There we go. Found it.
Yeah, so most of you that were here last week heard me do the practice for the pitch, but at a high level, the world's biggest analog is a coordinated analog astronaut mission. It will be happening in October of 2025 for 2 weeks. And there will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 75 participants, both in the habitats and serving on mission control in various capacities. Shout out to Iman for recommending that we look at donating money. So this proposal is to establish 10 scholarships for a total of $12,000 US equivalent to prospective crew members who have been selected. The basic problem is that there's a lot of participants from all over the globe, and the cost to participate can be up to $5,000 depending on crew position. And the cost would be even more of a challenge for somebody that comes from a developing country or has a financial need, like they have a financial inability to pay for the training and the logistics. So the proposal is basically just to provide scholarships to 10 individuals in a tiered system. So basically the competition will take applications from the pool, which is up to 75 individuals. And then we will, from the applications, the review committee will select 10 applicants to be selected as finalists. And then they will be tiered on the schedule. So the first prize would be a full scholarship. The second prize would be a half scholarship. The third prize we would offer $1,000. And then all of the finalists receive $500. A critical component of the application is that we want everybody to join the Space Acceleration Network so that we can onboard the analog astronaut community into the Space Acceleration Network. There are two benefits to this. The first one is that Moondao will be directly supporting human spaceflight and space habitation research. But also, we're going to ask each of the scholarship recipients to commit to documenting their process and providing us things for social media. So it's sort of a two-way street. We're helping directly fund space research, and the recipients will come into the Space Acceleration Network and join us. The key risk is low adoption of Web3 among analog astronauts. We are the intersect, basically, of that currently. I established some objectives, but they're basically like set up the competition, collect the applications, review the applications, and then run the voting for the DAO. And we've also asked the 10 finalists to come either directly to the town hall or provide us with a video to play during the town hall. And then DAO members can vote on who they want to win. And it'll be proportional voting. So you assign your votes to who you want to win. And then the top 3 vote getters will be first, second, third place. Yeah. And then there's also a timeline in there. The key deadline is I want to provide the money to the winners by the end of Q2, so July-ish, so that they can get the money in advance of the on-site, in advance of the mission, and can get refunded for their expenditures, some of the expenses they've already had to incur. So, yeah, that's the high-level summary. Happy to take any specific questions or comments, particularly from. And I wanted to thank Ryan and Mitchie for hand-holding me, as this was my first proposal.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you for being responsive to, all our questions and feedback and all that. I think this is looking really good. I guess a couple of questions for you. I know there was initially, I know you were, one of the participants here or part of the participatory pool. Or
yes,
are you handling that aspect of it? I guess will you be like recusing yourself from that, or
yeah,
not?
I'm not applying.
You're not applying for this.
I'm not applying for this. Yeah. So I will not apply for the scholarships. I don't think it's right to review the applications, and I'm not applying for this. No.
Okay. No, just.
Well, what if we had other people review applications separately? Then would that allow you to participate? I mean, I do know that just by nature of being the lead of this, you will be hopefully receiving some funds from Moondao for your, you know,
Yeah, I
kind of
think
like quarterly efforts.
I
which
think
could
that was the
probably cover the
consideration.
cost.
I will be working on this. There's I just didn't feel right to run. I don't want the appearance of
Okay.
impropriety, even if there is none. So I will not apply for this.
That's it. Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I guess as another question, like what do you, right now, I believe it's just kind of yourself on this project, but what sort of needs do you see for help, or, you know, people here in the audience who might want to help on this project or collaborate on this project? Is there a need for that? What's your bandwidth
Yeah.
like? And what
The
sort of needs do you
biggest
have, I guess?
the biggest need will be an application review. Obviously, we won't involve some Senate members in that, but anyone from the team, anyone from the community who would like to be part of that, as long as the caveat, if you are in the applicant pool, please recruit yourself from applying. But otherwise, if you want to help in that would be the biggest thing, is reviewing 65 or 70 applications. Now, I don't expect the entire pool to come. You know, we'd be lucky to get 20 or 30 applicants. But yeah, if you, thanks Titan for volunteering. Yeah, if you would like to help review applications, please send me a note in Discord or type in the proposal chat, and we'll talk about that. There's another question, location. So Biosphere 2. So I think Biosphere 2 is one of the locations. I think, but all the locations are on the website, and there's actually a link at the very top in the abstract. There's a link to the world's biggest analog website. You can read all of the habitats. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. I think like High Seas, MDRS, those sort of places. A couple of places in Europe. So I will miss some. So please go view the website if you're interested in seeing more about specific habitats and everything. But the information is on their website and available in the abstract.
Hey Bob, I have a question.
Yes.
This is one thing that I'm currently facing with my project, so I figured I'd ask it. The award, and like when you hope to get the award to the winners, and then also the event itself, are after the quarter ends. Like it's what, Q1 now, and both of those things will take place after Q1 is over. As far as the end of this project, do you expect to have it be like evaluated at the end of Q1, or for the objectives and stuff? Do the objectives include the results of the things that will happen in July and October?
Yeah. So July was an arbitrary, just to get them the money before they have to go. A lot of them are already incurring costs, so they've like already incurred the costs. So this project is just to evaluate the candidates and get them selected as winners. But also, you know, I talked about asking the candidates for a commitment to, as part of the application process, for a commitment to like talk to us about their journey, you know, provide us video, social media things that we can do in collaboration with WBA or on our own. And so that may be like a follow-on project to this one where we talk about documenting. But the main aspect of this project is let's get candidates to apply and get the money so that they can attend. Especially one of the selection criteria will be financial need and or coming from like a developing country. It won't be the only criteria, but it'll be part of the consideration. And so like some people may not be able to actually participate in the event at all if we don't get the money. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, I have been thinking about doing a follow-on project to handle hey, can you video this? Or hey, send me this, right? From the analog astronauts as part of their journey. And that probably is a good thing to happen between July and October. But I think we need to identify the individuals and get them to commit to that before I can say this is a mandatory part of a project.
That was what I was going to recommend. Yeah, splitting it into two separate things. So great.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's only aspirational in this proposal.
The proposal is for the planning and the coordination of the
correct, the competition,
getting the applications and stuff accepted and reviewed, right?
Yes. Okay. This is just for that process.
Have you guys also discussed or thought about how you're gonna submit the funds to people who win. So I
Yes.
assume most don't want to deal with crypto. So is this
Yes.
going to be
So
converted
we
into
actually,
fiat?
Titan and I had a call with Jazz shortly before or after, shortly before Christmas or after Christmas. It was during that break. And basically, we discussed the possibility of just making the payment to the world's biggest analog organ or its parent organization. So that's part of what I'll have to figure out on this. Still want people to join the Space Acceleration Network as part of the application, but we recognize that people might not have a crypto exchange in their country or their currency, right? So I think we discussed it, and Jazz is willing to just take the payment and process refunds that way. So
It's also more accountable, in my
Yeah.
opinion, so that the money is used how you intended it.
right, and if somebody ends up like dropping out, they can let us know, and we can shuffle down the list, right? I think that that's the best way to handle it. But if anybody has strong feelings, please come join us and help run the project, and we can talk about whether it should be direct crypto. But there might be candidates who say, "No, I want the crypto. Give it to me." Right? So, So that's something we have to handle once we have all the applicants identified and in coordination with the organization running. So.
This isn't a question, but I just wanted to say, like, one of the citizens that we onboarded, I think in the past week, I was chatting with them, and they were initially part of this WBA process, but then they had to actually like drop out because of the training costs and all that. So I think there is like a real need and hurdle here that this proposal would address to help people participate. So unfortunately, they're no longer eligible, but this would help a lot of other people.
Paul asks, I wonder if Moondao may help operate research with analog habitats. That's a great idea. Please go to ideation and we can make that a separate proposal. Phil, you're furiously typing. Do you have a question?
I switched keyboards today, so I'm struggling.
Okay.
Non-standard layouts. No, I'm good. I was going to reply to Cole saying, I would love that, but I can't type today.
Okay. Looks like Mitchie is typing. Oh, Dvorak. So I think that's basically all I had on that. Are there any more questions from anybody up here? Don't see anything else in the chat.
I think I wonder if this is just an issue on our end. I'm seeing just @Discord name under project lead again. Just want to make sure that is you, right?
Yeah, we put in. Yes, that was me. Yes, it's me. It was. I think that. Yeah, it's supposed to be me.
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I see
project
project
lead right underneath for me. So.
Right. Yeah. It's probably just a bug on our end. We'll look into it.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions, so that's all I had.
Cool. Thank you, Bob. We have the link to the temperature check here posted in the ground controls channel for senators. Looks like the Sea and Space proposal did pass temperature check already. Maybe we're missing one vote, but this might have already passed as well. Anyways, get your votes in there. Thank you, Bob, for presenting. And I guess we can move into some quick project roundtable updates. Iman, you're on stage. Do you have any updates about the documentary?
No, you, me, and the crew are trying to get together next week. We haven't finalized the date, but it would be, I guess if you, me, and Pablo kind of want to get together and come up with like what we're thinking, or if we want to just see what Jerome and Kevin are thinking. But yeah, it would be nice to kind of get a plan in place about what we want to do with it and then get the final product. I will say Emily Calandrelli had a nice YouTube video today that was like 10, 15 minutes about just her space flight, kind of like what Kobe Cotton did for Moondow before. Now what we're doing on this one's a little bit different because it's like how do you use the impact of the flight to help kids and kind of motivate people. But maybe even like a 10, 15-minute video for a YouTube channel would be good. I don't know. This is what we have to figure out, what's going to get the most reach and kind of get people interested in this organization.
Cool. Thanks, Iman. Bill, Space Time Card. Any updates there?
Yeah, quick update. So parts are still in shipment. The clock that we purchased, we'll be able to test it once the breakout board that the students designed comes in. So they made a custom PCB to expose all the pins and hook it up and make sure everything works okay. And in the meantime, they've been doing simulations and working that out. In addition to that, for me, I wrote basically a reflection on the last quarter, how things went, how things are going, and how to potentially like course correct the project, the Moondow project itself. So, we're not fighting against ourselves here in terms of the way the project was written a few months ago before we really knew what we were doing. So I have some notes there in a doc I shared in progress and in the project channel, and I've been saying this for a while now, but when I'll finally get around to it, pitching some amendments for the community to review and vote on, to change some things like the OKRs that were evaluated against in terms of like project success. The last thing is that February 13th at 11 a.m. Eastern is the next incremental design review. Me and Ashley will be in attendance there. We'll write up some words on how it went. And that's a detailed overview of what the students have done so far, what they're planning to do next and stuff. So if you're interested in the technical stuff, get in touch so I can make sure to pass on your questions, or make sure to take notes on the things y'all are interested in. So, yeah, small things are going steady.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Pablo, turn it over to you for updates on the 2 new projects that just passed.
Yeah. So let's see. With the Launchpad, we are getting kind of a first sketch put together in terms of the different views within the app, the design, how we're interacting with some of the smart contracts, protocols under the hood. We're using the Juicebox contracts. So yeah, it's coming together. We've got kind of our hands full, honestly, in terms of different groups that are wanting to use the system for crowd raising. So hopefully we'll have everything up and running in time for each of their use cases. So yeah, that's pretty promising. And then on the Treasury proposal side, yeah, I'm working with Jade. We're just kind of getting all the transactions that need to be put through to the Treasury, and just trying to break it all down and maybe start signing some of those, or at least queuing up the transactions within the next week or two. But yeah, that's basically it.
Cool. Thank you, Pablo. Yeah, that's basically what we have on the agenda here. I'll just give a quick shout out that the Q4 retroactive payments did go out, I think 6 days ago, so last Friday. For anyone who is eligible, on a project level or as a citizen for their contributions last quarter, those ETH payments are already in your wallet. Just check on Arbitrum, so on Arbiscan. They are there. We also have the vMooney Voting Power Mooney available to claim and withdraw. And directions are posted there in announcements. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that. I think quite a few people here in the audience have already done so. We're also closing in pretty close on 100 citizens, and part of that Treasury proposal that recently passed is to do an airdrop of governance power to those citizens. So look forward to that. And if you haven't joined yet, please do join as a citizen in the network. And last little call out is what did you get done this week? If you're a citizen, share what you did, any contributions, whether it helped Moondao, help get the word out about Moondao, or advance our multi-planetary mission. You're welcome to share those contributions and get rewarded in the next Q1 retroactive rewards cycle. I just shared the link here to moondao.com/contribute. Yeah, that's all for this week. Next week, we'll have Jonathan McDowell as a special guest to talk to us a little bit about his spaceflight history library. He has a pretty comprehensive archive of spaceflight history and is doing a crowd raise right now, a standard fiat crowd raise to help support that. So yeah, definitely tune in next week. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. This was kind of a long one this week, but super interesting. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Welcome to Moondao, a revolutionary governance model and mission-oriented community that's reshaping collaboration in the space industry. Our mission is to create a self-sustaining, self-governing settlement on the Moon to act as a launch point into the cosmos. Moondao is governed like a nation, with its own economy, constitution, voting system, treasury, elections, and senate, but internet native, and so without the limitations of geography. In 2022, we sent our first member to space, showcasing our model's capacity for real-world impact. Now, we're implementing key solutions for global collaboration in the space industry. We offer a borderless, permissionless platform that enables everyday people to participate in the future of space development and exploration. Be part of our lunar legacy and join the Moondao movement today.